All right.
All right, we've all been there. Family gathering. You're stuck listening to your third cousin Larry or your sister-in-law Sophie going on and on about the news and the politics and all their beliefs, and in fact, they have no idea what they're talking about. So, do you jump in and correct them and risk getting into a big fight, or do you just let it all go, water under the bridge? Well, researchers at the University of Pennsylvania have developed an approach for handling these sometimes annoying or at least frustrating interactions. They call it bypassing misinformation.
So how does it all work? Here to tell us more is Javier Granados Samayoa. He is a research associate at UPenn's Social Action Lab, which did this study. Javier, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
So what is the approach that your research, actual research, proves is helpful in these situations?
Right, so we were testing this new approach called bypassing, which tries to combat the effects of misinformation in sort of a less confrontational way. So what you do is, instead of directly contradicting what the person says, you share other true information that shifts their opinion.
Can you give an example in practice?
Yeah, absolutely. So let's say you find yourself 4th of July barbecue, and your uncle says something like, "I don't need sunscreen, I don't burn." The typical response would be saying something like, "That's not true, you can get skin damage even if you don't visibly burn." Bypassing tries to go around that and instead say something like, "You know, I found this sunscreen that smells great, keeps my skin looking healthy, and it's good for the environment." Something like that.
What if someone says like, you can leave potato salad out, on the table for hours at that 4th of July party?
Yeah, so the correction would be something like, "That's not true. If you leave food out at room temperature for a while, it can grow bacteria and make people sick." The bypassing approach instead would focus on saying something like, "I prefer to keep the food in the fridge until it's time to serve. I find that the sensation is more pleasant and it keeps it tasting fresh." So you're trying to highlight other positive or negative information that shifts the person in the direction of what you want them.
So it's a way of avoiding having to say you're wrong.
Right, it is less confrontational. And I want to be clear, correction can be effective, but there are situations where people will entrench or dig into their position. And let's be honest, you don't want to be ruining the 4th of July barbecue with your actually,
Yeah.
But isn't there something to be said for being direct and not like, dancing around an issue?
Absolutely. So there are many different tools that you can use to combat misinformation, and there's absolutely a place for correction. But I think there's a lot of value in rounding out our toolbox. And when people are likely to dig in deeper, or it's just going to get you into a fight, you might be able to try this non-confrontational route. And we do find that it can be as effective and sometimes even more effective than correction. So correction really relies on being able to get a lot of information out. If you just have a little bit of time and space, maybe try bypass.
Is the idea that if you contradict someone or try to correct them, that they will dig deeper into their conviction, and that the other approach is better at kind of getting them to start thinking in a different way?
Yeah, so in our research, we find that bypassing leads to less discomfort and less anger relative to a correction. So if I tell you, "No, that's not true," let's be honest, how many people will just say, "Oh, you're right. I completely changed my mind." And there is some level of discomfort that I think is natural, and some people can get past it and others can't.
Are you a director or a bypasser?
I have a lot of humility, assuming that I'm wrong about all this stuff. So if someone's saying something, I'm going to be like, "Well, maybe."
Yeah, oh, that's good.
I hope that works out. I
Intellectual
mean, you could be right. I don't know.
Love it. Yes,
could be
that's
the
great.
case. Did you have a very bad experience at a 4th of July family function?
I'm actually Canadian, so we do Canada Day. All of my American experiences with 4th of July have been amazing. Yeah.
That's awesome.
But yes, I have gotten into, let's say, heated debates when I correct people. And sometimes it's better to just sort of add additional information that sort of pushes people in the direction that you want them to.
Let them be. All right, Javier, thank you so much.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you.